This Saturday I'm hosting a dinner party for friends, and I said I'm going to cook, and they've just made the assumption it's going to be black food, it's going to be Caribbean food.
Right, okay.
And they're like, oh, we get to eat jerk chicken. And I went, I might not cook that. I might, but they've kind of like made this perception, and it's fine, but it's funny, isn't it? Yeah. They just feel that when they come, that's what they're going to have. If I turn up with a pizza, would they be disappointed?
Digital learning that's dramatically different. Welcome to this TED Learning Podcast.
Hiya and welcome to the TED Learning Podcast. I'm Lou, and you're also going to hear from my sister Jocelyn. We're here to chat to you about the things that inspire us during Black History Month, including food, in terms of Caribbean and West Indian food and how it's become, I would say, more popular in recent years. Reason I said this, I went out for a meal for my birthday recently to Turtle Bay. As I walked into the restaurant, I was amazed at kind of not only the environment and the atmosphere, but how a restaurant that embraces Caribbean and West Indian food was so lively and had so many different people of different age groups there enjoying food that we've grown up with. Have you noticed that?
Yes, I have noticed that. I mean, I suppose it's a bit like the way the British lifestyle has adopted, say, Indian and Pakistani food. There's kind of the version that you get in a restaurant like Turtle Bay, and then there's the version that you get that your mum cooks, you know. So it is good, but I suppose it hasn't quite crossed over in the same way as, say, Chinese or Italian food has. And I find that quite interesting because with so much Caribbean food available, whether it be in the world food stores or through restaurants, it still hasn't had quite that crossover. But then, you know, it's like our secret sauce that we share as and when, and it's big events like Carnival and festivals, or come into a Caribbean home where you will get to try the food. And I know for myself, I do cook it, but I probably don't cook it as often as I'd like to, but I want to do it justice. I don't want to cook it quickly on a Monday night and it doesn't quite taste right. I want to make sure I put it together properly.
Because you remember growing up how as kids there were certain dishes that mum would cook for us. And for us, I always feel like food was a real event. It was an occasion where we'd be together around a table, eating and laughing, eating all this food. But actually, as time went on, we were eating less West Indian food and more risottos and pizzas and macaroni cheese. Yeah. And do you remember that time where I actually said to Mum, let's hold a party and all we have is Bajan food? And I got her to do the sugar muffins with the coconut.
That's right.
I got her to do bake the sweet bread and make the kind of stewed chicken, and it was a chance for us because I felt like as much as we eat it, like you say, we don't always have it as much, and it's so important, I think, to make sure that when we eat, when we remember our heritage and our culture, food's a big part of that for me.
And it's carrying on the traditions as well, because it's very easy for how you cook that food and how you source it and the little secret twists to kind of be lost with a certain generation. So our mum's in her late 70s. If that generation doesn't cook it with us and we then carry it on, so I know you've taken on the sweetbread recipe, you're going to carry that on for the Chandler branch of the family, but if that's not continued, then that whole style of cooking and the way you make it is then lost. But interestingly, I did a project with a previous job and we put together a cookbook and we were all sourcing recipes from our heritage and our cultures, and this went right across the board from Korean, African, Chinese, Pakistani, Norwegian, and but when I asked Mum for the recipe, she was kind of like, she gave me just enough but not the full thing, and that was quite interesting. But it's up to us as the torchbearers and the descendants of the Caribbean generation to keep those recipes and those traditions going and to introduce new people to it, you know, so they can enjoy the flavours and the whole experience as well. And it's the combinations of it. So.
True. Don't you find that when Mum gives you a recipe, she never gives you quantities?
Yeah.
So you don't know how much. She's like, oh, a bit of this. And you're like, but how much? And you try to pin her down to actual quantities and weighing it out, and you just don't know.
I always laugh when Jamie Oliver is perceived to be the one who brought in this style of, oh, just chuck it in. It's like, we were growing up with that cooking for years. That's how she's always cooked.
It's true. The scales are rarely brought out. It was just done by taste, rough measures and guesses, but they certainly. I think the other thing I was going to say, where it comes to food, I found it quite interesting. I know there's certain things from Caribbean food that's kind of building momentum. So, for example, there's a patty company, Jamaican patty company, that are opening up stores around London and across the UK, because it's almost like you've got the Cornish pasty, and they're taking the Jamaican patty and almost trying to give it that British momentum in that kind of Caribbean style. And I found that really interesting because I'm seeing them more and more, or there's more talks about jollof rice from the African culture and how that's kind of a big dish that people recognise. So I think in terms of people recognising the food more, the holidays, going abroad is helping that kind of conversation to be opened up wider. World food aisles in supermarkets, the fact you can get hold of ingredients more than you used to. You know, the days when we were growing up and you could only get plantains and sweet potatoes at certain shops. Now you get them in your your mainstream supermarkets. I think that's really helped it as well, for people to feel like it's ingredients that you can engage with.
Yeah, and it's interesting, going back to the crossover, you know, the Cornish pasty and the patty, they have similarities. A good Cornish pasty does have a peppery kick. It might not have the same kick as a patty, but it's interesting because every kind of cultural group has their own version, say, of a fish cake.
Yeah.
So, you know, as Caribbeans, we have our own version of a fish cake, but you'll find the fish cake in so many homes. Obviously, the British fish cake is a little bit plain compared to the fish cakes that we sampled from our grandmother. Remember that trip in Barbados? And she made us these fish cakes that were just incredible because we had been somewhere and had these fish cakes. And I still can see her house, the smell, the taste. And that to me is a very warm and comforting memory from Granny Daphne of her making those fish cakes and having them ready when we got there, because she wasn't a talker.
No.
Not like us, she wasn't a talker. No. But she had a big tray of them ready and we just gorged ourselves on them. And it's one of my happiest memories of spending time with her on those 2-week trips that we'd make and still continue to make back to Barbados. It's really important.
Is that when she said that if we ever come and she's not there, the kitchen will always be here?
I know.
Thanks.
That's where the love of food comes, I think,
It's
from
true.
From our granny, our grandparents, our parents, you know, and the wider family and our aunts and uncles as well. And it's those things that you want to keep celebrating. You want to introduce to the next generation, our nieces and nephews, who, you know, have different heritages in their makeup and in their DNA, and they enjoy the coming together. So it's up to us to help them to keep enjoying the Caribbean and Bajan food certainly in our instance.
It's funny, this Saturday I'm hosting a dinner party for friends, and I said I'm going to cook, and they've just made the assumption it's going to be black food, it's going to be Caribbean food.
Right, okay.
And I don't mind. And they're like, oh, we'll get to eat jerk chicken. And I laughed. I said to George, my boyfriend, I went, I might not cook that. Like, I might, but they've kind of like made this perception and like this kind of, and it's fine, but it's funny, isn't it? Like they just feel that when they come, that's what they're going to have, and they know that I love cooking. And I always talk to them about recipes and stuff, and I laughed. I said to George, so if I turn up with a pizza, would they be disappointed?
But isn't it interesting the way jerk chicken as a brand has really travelled?
Really taken off.
So well done to the Jamaicans. It's done really. But people associate, well, if you're having Caribbean food, it must be jerk chicken.
Must be.
And they know our food has a kick and a spice and a flavour to it. But isn't it interesting the way, and that's kind of become shorthand for Caribbean food.
Absolutely.
And great jerk chicken is great jerk chicken. But when it's done badly, you know, someone just puts a little bit of paprika or something on it, it's not quite right. But I find that interesting that it's become the shorthand of Caribbean food, and that is something to be celebrated. You know, I think patties are still building their profile, but certainly in that way that jerk chicken is the shorthand. I think that's great.
The thing is with jerk though, to cook it well, you've got to have an outside barbecue, and my neighbours might my neighbours might wonder I'm building this like brick and metal thing on Saturday morning. If I was I'm not sure. I don't think jerk chicken's going to be it, but it was just interesting that was their perception.
But there's something to be said for, you know, giving the people what they ask for. You know, even if you did it in your starters or something, because actually that's quite nice that they want to connect with our culture. And that's kind of the expectation. And that's quite nice that they're not expecting something from somewhere else. To, you know, maybe, or even, you know, I said you took on the sweetbread recipe, even making some of that they could take home with them, that it feels then that they've connected, and the fact they want to connect is really lovely.
That's all from us. You can search the TED Learning podcast or go to the website tedlearning.co.uk.